Greetings, cozy knights. Lower your swords and rest by the fire. Tonight, we journey through the hidden depths of Skyrim, exploring 150 secrets that even the most dedicated Dragonborn may have overlooked. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're listening from tonight. World Design and Hidden Pathways. Secret 1. The Secret Mountain Path Network. Skyrim's mountains aren't just obstacles to climb over. They're riddled with hidden pathways that connect distant regions in ways the main roads never show. Between Windhelm and Riften, there's an unmarked trail that winds through the eastern mountains, passing through 3 different hidden camps placed deliberately along this forgotten route. These camps tell a connected story of tragedy, a group of travelers attempting to cross Skyrim during the harshest part of winter, with each camp showing progressively worse conditions that document their slow descent into disaster. The first camp, nestled in a sheltered outcropping near the rift's border, shows signs of optimism and preparation. Warm bedrolls are arranged neatly around a stone fire pit. Food supplies sit stacked in organized piles: dried meat, vegetables, bread, cheese. The travelers clearly packed for a journey of several weeks, expecting to reach their destination with supplies to spare. A journal at this camp describes their plan. A merchant caravan seeking to avoid the long road through bandit territory, instead attempting a direct mountain crossing that would save them a week of travel time. The author writes confidently about the route, mentioning they've hired an experienced Nord guide who knows these mountains intimately. Travel another few hours along the winding mountain trail, and you'll find the second camp in a much less sheltered location, exposed to winds that howl across the peaks. Here, the organization has deteriorated. Bedrolls are arranged hastily around a smaller fire pit. The food supplies have dwindled dramatically. Only a few scraps of dried meat remain, and empty water skins lie scattered about. The second journal entry reveals the disaster. Their guide died in his sleep 2 days ago, victim of a heart condition he never mentioned. Now the merchants are lost, unsure whether to press forward or try to backtrack. The weather has worsened and snow falls constantly. They're rationing food, hoping to stretch their supplies until they either find civilization or starve trying. The third camp sits in the most exposed location yet, offering virtually no protection from the elements. No fire pit remains. The travelers apparently lack the strength or materials to build one. The frozen bodies of 4 merchants huddle together in a final futile attempt at shared warmth, their packs scattered around them, empty of anything useful. The final journal entry, barely legible and written in a shaking hand, describes 3 days of blizzard conditions, no food for 5 days, and the creeping numbness that signals hypothermia's final stages. The author writes that they can see smoke in the distance, perhaps from Riften, but they lack the strength to reach it. There may be 3 miles from salvation, close enough to see it, far enough that it might as well be on another continent. The developers placed these camps deliberately, creating a narrative trail that most players sprint past while fast traveling between cities. But for those who take the time to follow this unmarked path, reading each journal and examining the degradation of supplies and morale, a complete tragedy unfolds. These weren't bandits or adventurers. They were ordinary merchants trying to save time, guided by someone who concealed a fatal health condition, undone by weather and bad decisions. The camps are placed precisely where travelers would naturally stop for rest, creating a realistic path of deterioration that mirrors real survival situations. It's environmental storytelling at its finest, complete narratives existing in the world, requiring no quests, no voice acting, just careful placement and player attention. Secret 2. The invisible boundary markers scattered throughout Skyrim are invisible markers that trigger specific weather changes and ambient sounds when you cross them. Walk from Whiterun towards Morthal, and you'll notice the exact moment when the sunny plains transition to fog and decay. There's an invisible line on the ground that triggers this shift. The developers placed hundreds of these boundaries throughout the world, creating seamless transitions between biomes. You can feel them if you pay attention. The moment the wind changes direction, when bird calls shift to wolf howls, when warm sunlight becomes overcast gloom. Secret 3. The hidden river system. Beneath Skyrim's surface lies a massive network of underground rivers and streams that actually flow through the game world. These aren't just visual effects. The water physics actually calculate flow direction and speed. In certain caves, you can follow streams upstream or downstream to find hidden chambers the minimap doesn't show. The developers use real water flow algorithms, meaning every underground stream has a source and destination. Follow them far enough, and you'll discover these rivers connect to surface lakes and waterfalls in ways that make geological sense. Secret 4. The texture storytelling. Examine the ground closely in Skyrim cities, and you'll notice wear patterns in the stone paths that correspond to NPC traffic. The most walked routes between popular buildings show deeper grooves and smoother stones. Outside Whiterun's gates, the path to the stables shows more wear than the path to the farms because NPCs travel there more frequently. This wasn't randomly generated. Environmental artists manually placed worn textures along NPC patrol routes, creating a lived-in world where you can literally see the paths people take every day. Secret 5. The deliberate sightlines. Every major location in Skyrim was positioned so you can see it from specific vantage points that create memorable views. The throat of the world is visible from almost anywhere in the province, but the developers specifically designed dozens of perfect viewing spots where trees and mountains frame it dramatically. They place benches, campsites, or interesting items at these exact spots, subtly guiding players to stop and appreciate the view. These aren't accidents. They're carefully calculated positions where the game's most impressive sights align perfectly with the player's line of sight. Secret 6. The sound bubble system. Skyrim uses invisible sound bubbles around every location that gradually blend audio as you approach. Walk towards a battlefield and combat sounds fade in slowly across 200 meters, mixed with increasingly urgent music cues. The system uses over 50 different audio layers that activate based on your position, time of day, weather, and nearby events. You'll never notice this working perfectly, but you'd immediately notice if it wasn't there. The world would feel empty and disconnected. The developers spent months tuning these bubbles so the audio world feels as three-dimensional as the visual one. Secret 7. The hidden loading zones. Those long winding passages in Nordic dungeons aren't just atmospheric, they're disguised loading zones. While you walk through a dim corridor between chambers, the game is unloading the previous room and loading the next one. The developers place these transitions so smoothly that you never see a loading screen during dungeons. They even added environmental storytelling in these corridors, murals, cave-ins, ancient mechanisms, so you stay engaged while the technical loading happens invisibly in the background. Secret 8. The weather prediction system. Weather in Skyrim isn't random. It uses a prediction algorithm that accounts for geography, season, and recent weather patterns. If it's been sunny for 3 days near Falkreath, fog becomes increasingly likely. Mountains create rain shadows on their eastern sides. Coastal areas near the Sea of Ghosts experience harsher storms. The system even tracks weather fronts moving across the province, so you can sometimes see distant rain clouds approaching from miles away. This creates realistic weather patterns that change gradually rather than jumping randomly between conditions. Secret 9. The seasonal lake freezing. Some of Skyrim's lakes gradually freeze as winter deepens, with ice expanding from the shores towards the center. This isn't a sudden switch. It's a progressive transformation tracked by the game's calendar system. Near Winterhold, certain lakes become completely impassable ice sheets by midwinter, while southern lakes near Falkreath never fully freeze. The developers program different freezing rates for dozens of water bodies based on their elevation, latitude, and size. Secret 10. The hidden hunting grounds wildlife in Skyrim follows actual migration patterns and feeding behaviors. Deer congregate in specific meadows during certain hours to graze. Wolves follow these deer herds at a distance. Bears fish at specific river shallows during morning hours. The developers created invisible attraction points throughout the wilderness that draw appropriate animals at appropriate times, simulating realistic ecosystem behaviors. Patient observers can learn these patterns and find the same animals in the same places consistently. NPC AI and behavior secrets. Secret 11. The relationship memory system. NPCs remember every significant interaction you've had with them, not just quest flags and major story beats. This isn't a simple binary system of friend or enemy. It's a nuanced, layered relationship tracking mechanism that monitors hundreds of micro-interactions per NPC, building a complete history of your relationship with each individual character. The system tracks how many times you've spoken to them, whether conversations ended positively or negatively, if you've helped or hindered them, if you've witnessed important moments in their lives, and even how you've treated their friends and family members. This creates the illusion that NPCs actually recognize you as an individual, rather than just responding to scripted quest states. The most obvious manifestation appears in merchant interactions. If you repeatedly buy from the same merchant over many in-game weeks, visiting their shop consistently, purchasing items regularly, never stealing, always treating them respectfully in dialogue, they'll gradually warm to you through increasingly familiar greetings. A shopkeeper who initially addresses you as stranger or traveler will eventually greet you by name, ask about your adventures, and mention that they look forward to your visits. Some merchants will even offer slightly better prices, a 2 to 3% discount that never appears in any visible stat, once they've decided you're a valued customer rather than a random adventurer passing through. The system becomes more interesting when examining how it tracks negative interactions. Repeatedly attempting to steal from an NPC, even if you're never caught, raises their hidden suspicion level toward you. They'll start watching you more carefully when you enter their shop or home. Their dialogue become subtly more guarded. They position themselves between you and valuable items. If you consistently act suspicious around someone, sneaking in their presence, drawing weapons indoors, examining their locked containers, they remember this pattern of behavior and treat you accordingly, even if you've never actually committed a crime. Relationship tracking extends beyond your direct interactions to include observational memory. If an NPC witnesses you helping their friend, saving them from bandits, completing a quest for them, giving them gifts, that witness develops a more positive opinion of you based on second-hand experience. Conversely, if someone sees you mistreating people they care about, their opinion of you sours even though you've never directly interacted with them. This creates a realistic social web where your reputation spreads through communities based on witnessed actions rather than just your direct relationships. The system also tracks relationship deterioration. If you frequently visit a city but consistently ignore a specific NPC who tries to engage with you, they'll eventually stop trying to start conversations. They'll develop a mild resentment, visible in their curt responses when you finally do speak with them. If you promise to help someone and then never follow through, abandoning quests or ignoring their requests, they remember your unreliability and become less likely to offer you future opportunities. The game simulates the very human response to disappointment and broken promises. One of the most sophisticated aspects involves tracking your behavior during important NPC moments. If you attend a wedding and behave appropriately, standing in the proper location, not drawing weapons, not picking everyone's pockets, the married couple and attending guests develop positive opinions of you. If you cause disruptions during ceremonies, even minor ones like bumping into people or casting spells, witnesses remember your poor behavior and treat you more coldly afterward. The game recognizes context-appropriate behavior and rewards social grace while penalizing social awkwardness. The relationship system even accounts for gifts and favors in nuanced ways. Giving someone a single apple creates a tiny positive relationship tick. Giving them their favorite food creates a much larger tick. Giving them something they mentioned needing in previous conversations, say, bringing a merchant a specific ingredient they complained about being unable to source, creates the largest relationship gain because it demonstrates you actually listened to them and remembered their problems. The game rewards players who pay attention to NPC dialogue and respond thoughtfully to their needs. This memory system extends surprisingly far into minor NPC interactions. Guards remember if you've helped defend the city from dragon attacks. Beggars remember if you've given them money before and are more likely to share useful information if you've been generous. Children remember if you've played games with them or given them gifts. Even animals remember if you fed them. Dogs you've given treats to are more likely to follow you around town. And horses you fed apples to are easier to mount and control. The most emotionally impactful use of this system appears in how NPCs respond to deaths of their loved ones. If someone you've befriended has their spouse or child die, whether from your actions or other causes, they remember that you knew their deceased loved one. Their dialogue acknowledges shared grief, creating moments of genuine emotional connection. They might mention how the deceased person spoke well of you, or they might thank you for being kind to someone who's now gone. These interactions aren't scripted into specific quests. They emerge organically from the relationship tracking system, recognizing connections between multiple NPCs and yourself. What makes this system particularly impressive is its invisibility. The game never shows you relationship scores or explicitly tells you when your actions are building or damaging relationships. You discover these systems purely through observing NPC behavior changes over time. A merchant who becomes noticeably friendlier after weeks of patronage, a guard who greets you respectfully after you've repeatedly defended the city, a beggar who starts sharing valuable information after you've consistently been generous. These all emerge naturally from the hidden relationship calculations running constantly in the background. For players who treat NPCs as mere game objects, rushing through conversations, stealing constantly, treating everyone with equal indifference, this system remains invisible. But for players who approach NPCs as characters, who read their dialogue carefully, who treat them with consistency and respect, Skyrim reveals itself as a world where social relationships actually matter, and where NPCs remember you as an individual with a history of specific interactions, rather than just a player avatar running through scripted events. Secret 12. The secret guard communication guards don't just randomly appear when you commit crimes. They use a hidden communication network. When one guard spots you committing a crime, they trigger an invisible alert that propagates to nearby guards based on line of sight and distance. You can actually see this system working. Commit a crime and watch how guards who didn't witness it start converging on your position from predictable patrol routes. The system even accounts for closed doors and walls. Guards can't know about crimes if there's no path for information to reach them. Secret 13. The NPC sleep tracking NPCs who don't get enough sleep become visibly more irritable. This isn't just scripted dialogue. The game actually tracks how many hours each NPC has slept in the past 48 game hours. If an NPC gets interrupted repeatedly during their scheduled sleep time, say because you keep breaking into their house at 2 a.m., they'll accumulate sleep debt that affects their dialogue tone and their likelihood of being aggressive towards you. Well-rested NPCs are friendlier and more helpful. Secret 14. The hidden skill teaching system. Certain NPCs will spontaneously offer to teach you skills if you've demonstrated interest in that skill recently. If you've been casting lots of destruction magic in a city, a court wizard might approach you with advice about a new spell. If you've been smithing frequently, a blacksmith might share techniques. These aren't quest triggers, they're soft recommendations based on monitoring your recent skill usage. The game tracks what skills you practice most frequently and matches you with appropriate NPCs who notice your dedication. Secret 15. The food preference system. NPCs have preferred foods that affect their disposition if you give them as gifts. While the game doesn't explicitly show this, certain characters favor specific foods based on their race, class, and homehold. Nord warriors prefer meat and mead, while mages favor baked goods and wine. Court members enjoy expensive foods, while beggars are grateful for any food. If you give an NPC their preferred food type enough times, they become permanently friendlier towards you, though the game never explains this mechanic. Secret 16. The witness reliability system. When guards investigate crimes, they actually evaluate witness credibility. Guards trust high-standing citizens more than beggars. If a known troublemaker claims they saw you commit a crime, guards investigate more slowly, than if a respected merchant makes the same claim. The system even tracks contradictory witness statements. If multiple NPCs report different descriptions of a crime, guards become less certain and may let you go with a warning. Secret 17. The hidden shopping schedules. Merchants stock different items based on what customers have been buying recently. If many players in a settlement keep buying healing potions, merchants will gradually stock more potions and fewer other items. If nobody buys soul gems for weeks, merchants will reduce their soul gem inventory. This creates a dynamic economy that responds to actual player behavior patterns, making frequently purchased items more available and unpopular items scarcer. Secret 18. The crowd behavior system. In crowded market squares, NPCs don't just randomly mill about. They form natural social groups and conversational clusters. Friends gravitate towards each other. Enemies avoid each other. High-status NPCs receive more deferential space. The system simulates basic social physics, creating realistic-looking crowd behavior where people maintain comfortable distances and naturally cluster based on relationships. Secret 19. The secret mourning period. When an NPC dies, their friends and family enter a hidden mourning state for several in-game days. During this period, they refuse social invitations, visit temples more frequently, and sometimes visit the Hall of the Dead. Some NPCs change their daily routines permanently after a loved one dies. The game tracks these relationships and allows NPCs to grieve in realistic ways that most players never notice. Secret 20. The hidden reputation points beyond the visible reputation systems tied to quests. Skyrim tracks hundreds of hidden reputation points with individual NPCs and factions. Every small action, returning a lost item, paying your debts on time, being respectful in conversation, earns small reputation gains. These accumulate invisibly until you reach hidden thresholds that unlock new dialogue options, better prices, or secret opportunities. The game never shows these points, but they're constantly being calculated based on your behavior. Combat and gameplay secrets. Secret 21. The stagger cancelling technique. Most players don't realize that weapon bash can cancel your own stagger animation, transforming what feels like a defensive mechanic designed to interrupt your attacks into an offensive tool that maintains combat momentum even when you're taking heavy hits. This is perhaps Skyrim's single most important undocumented combat mechanic, separating players who struggle on higher difficulties from those who thrive in legendary combat scenarios where every mistake is punished brutally. When an enemy lands a sufficiently powerful attack, typically power attacks from two-handed weapons, giant clubs, or magical blasts from powerful mages, your character enters a stagger state. During stagger, you're temporarily stunned, unable to block, attack, or move effectively. Your character stumbles backward, their weapon lowered, completely vulnerable to follow-up attacks. In lower difficulties, this vulnerability window is irritating. In legendary difficulty, where enemies deal 300% damage, this stagger state is often a death sentence because experienced enemies will chain multiple attacks into your stagger animation, stun-locking you to death before you recover. The game never explains that bashing immediately after receiving a stagger-inducing hit cuts the stagger animation short by roughly 70%, allowing you to resume fighting almost immediately. The timing window is extremely tight. You must bash within approximately 1/3 of a second after the hit lands. before your character fully enters the stagger state. If you bash too early before the hit lands, your bash whiffs uselessly. If you bash too late, after you're fully staggered, the bash doesn't execute at all because stagger prevents all actions. The window exists in that brief transition moment when the hit has landed, but before stagger fully locks you out of actions. Mastering this technique requires developing muscle memory for the visual and audio cues that signal an incoming heavy attack. Giants wind up with an obvious club swing that lasts nearly a full second. Plenty of time to prepare your bash response. Dragons have a distinctive head pulling back animation before breath attacks. Mages have casting animations before high-tier destruction spells. Two-handed weapon users have exaggerated backswing animations before power attacks. Once you learn to recognize these tells, you can prepare to bash cancel the instant their attack connects. The practical application transforms combat from reactive defense to aggressive counter-attacking. Against a giant, most players try to stay at maximum distance, pecking away with arrows or magic, because getting close means getting hit by devastating club attacks that send you flying. Players who master stagger cancelling can fight giants in melee range aggressively. Let the giant wind up its massive power attack, block or absorb the hit, bash cancel the stagger before you're fully stunned, then unleash your own power attack into the giant's recovery animation. The giant expects you to be stunned and flying backward. Instead, you're attacking into their vulnerable window. This technique is how skilled players survive legendary difficulty without relying on stealth archery or magic cheese tactics. On legendary, enemy damage output is so high that trading blows simply doesn't work. You'll die before killing any dangerous opponent in direct combat. But stagger cancelling lets you maintain offense even after taking hits that would normally leave you helpless. You're effectively converting what should be fatal defensive lapses into opportunities for aggressive counterattacks. The technique works against every enemy type in the game, though the timing varies slightly by opponent. Dragons require faster reactions because their attacks connect with less warning. Mages require reading their casting animations. Humanoid enemies with two-handed weapons provide the most generous timing windows because their power attack wind-ups are so exaggerated. Even trap hazards can be stagger cancelled. If a swinging blade or slamming gate hits you hard enough to cause stagger, bashing immediately afterward lets you sprint through trap gauntlets that would normally require perfect timing to avoid. Advanced players combine stagger cancelling with other combat mechanics to create sophisticated combo strings. Stagger cancel into immediate power attack creates an offense from defense rhythm. Stagger cancel into block creates a defensive reset that protects you from follow-up attacks. Stagger cancel into weapon swap allows you to respond with the optimal weapon for the current situation. The mechanic becomes part of a larger combat vocabulary that expert players use to adapt dynamically to complex encounters. The most game-changing application appears in multiple enemy scenarios. When fighting groups on legendary difficulty, getting hit by one enemy while you're focused on another is nearly inevitable. Without stagger cancelling, that first hit staggers you, and surrounding enemies capitalize with follow-up attacks that kill you before you recover. With stagger cancelling, you can absorb hits from multiple angles, cancelling each stagger immediately, maintaining combat fluidity even when surrounded. This transforms group combat from impossible death traps into manageable tactical challenges where positioning and target priority matter more than simply avoiding all damage. The technique even works against dragon shouts. Dragon rend, unrelenting force, and breath attacks all create stagger states that can be bash cancelled. Fighting dragons in melee becomes significantly more viable when you can cancel the stagger from their breath attacks and continue attacking without being driven away. Most players never attempt to melee dragon combat because dragon attacks scatter you constantly. Players who master stagger cancelling can stay in close range aggressively, treating dragons as oversized combat encounters rather than mandatory archery targets. Interestingly, this mechanic exists because of how Skyrim's animation system handles action interrupts. Bashing has highest priority in the animation queue. It can interrupt most other animations, including your own attacks, blocks, and even some stagger states. The developers likely included this as a debug feature or combat design flexibility tool, never expecting players to discover and weaponize it as a core survival technique. The tight timing window and lack of tutorial or documentation kept it hidden from casual players, while dedicated players who experimented with combat systems eventually stumbled upon it. Learning stagger cancelling fundamentally changes how you approach Skyrim's combat. Instead of treating damage as something to avoid at all costs, you begin to understand that some hits are acceptable, even strategic, if you can cancel their consequences and turn them into counterattack opportunities. Combat transforms from a game of perfect defense and careful positioning into an aggressive back and forth where taking calculated hits becomes part of an offensive strategy. This is what the game's combat system was capable of being all along, hidden beneath layers of undocumented mechanics waiting for players curious and persistent enough to discover them. Secret 22, the sneak roll jump. Combining sneak, sprint, and jump at precise moments creates a silent, fast movement technique. Start sneaking, then tap sprint and jump simultaneously while moving forward. If timed correctly, you perform a sort of accelerated crouch hop that covers ground much faster than regular sneaking while remaining completely silent. Assassin players who discover this technique can navigate dungeons significantly faster without breaking stealth. Secret 23, the power attack feinting system. You can cancel power attack animations by blocking immediately after starting them. This lets you feint a big attack, making enemies raise their guard or dodge, then punish their defensive reaction with a quick light attack. The AI responds to the start of your power attack animation, not its completion, so you can manipulate enemy behavior by threatening attacks you never complete. Secret 24, the spell buffering technique. Holding down both spell hands while casting allows you to buffer the next spell during the current spell's animation. This creates a nearly seamless chain of spells with barely any gap between casts. Expert destruction mages use this to create continuous streams of fire or lightning that appear as single sustained beams rather than separate casts. Secret 25, the companion revival shortcut. When essential companions go down in combat, you don't have to wait for them to automatically recover. You can speed up their recovery by repeatedly casting healing spells on them. Each heal spell triggers a hidden recovery check, meaning fast healing can get companions back on their feet in seconds rather than minutes. This works even if the healing does nothing to their health bar. Secret 26, the horse combat advantage. Horses in Skyrim can tank enormous amounts of damage and heal completely when dismounted. Smart players use this as a combat strategy. Let your horse draw aggro from powerful enemies, dismount, and attack, while enemies focus on your impossible-to-kill mount. When your horse's health gets low, dismount for a moment, and it instantly recovers to full health. Secret 27. The backwards aiming technique. Holding movement keys while knocking an arrow adds significant distance and power to archery shots. The game applies a hidden momentum modifier to arrows based on your movement speed when releasing them. Running forward while shooting adds range and damage. The mechanic was likely intended for realistic arrow physics, but creates an exploitable advantage for mobile archers. Secret 28. The scroll stacking exploit. Using multiple copies of the same scroll simultaneously allows their effects to stack in ways normal magic can't replicate. Fire off 3 Flame Atronach scrolls rapidly, and you'll have 3 Atronachs active simultaneously, even though you're only supposed to have 1 summon. This works because scrolls bypass the normal summoning limitations that apply to spells. Secret 29. The shout interruption system. Enemy shouts can be interrupted by bashing them during the animation wind-up. This works on dragons too. If you're close enough to bash a dragon while it's inhaling for a breath attack, you'll completely cancel the shout and leave the dragon momentarily stunned. Few players discover this because getting close enough to bash a dragon seems suicidal, but is devastatingly effective. Secret 30. The critical hit positioning. Critical hits in Skyrim aren't random. They're significantly more likely when attacking enemies from behind or from higher elevation. The game multiplies crit chance based on your position relative to the target. Archers who learn this aim for elevated positions, not just for tactical advantage, but because it mathematically increases their damage output through more frequent crits. Secret 31. The block bash timing. There's a hidden window after a successful block where bashing costs no stamina and deals double stagger damage. If you bash within a quarter second of blocking an attack, you'll see this advantage. Expert shield players learn to recognize the exact moment a block lands and immediately bash, turning every defensive action into a devastating counterattack. Secret 32. The enchantment stat exploitation enchantment strength scales with your current stat total when you apply the enchantment, but the game doesn't recalculate if your stats change afterward. This means if you temporarily boost your enchanting skill to 150 using potions and equipment, then apply enchantments. Those enchantments remain at 150 strength permanently, even after your enchanting returns to normal. Crafting-focused players exploit this to create impossibly powerful equipment. Secret 33. The dual cast stagger lock. Dual casting destruction spells doesn't just increase damage. It adds a stagger effect that can lock enemies in place if you hit them continuously. The AI can't respond if they're constantly staggering, so master destruction mages can kill almost any enemy without taking damage by maintaining constant dual cast pressure. This creates a de facto stun lock that trivializes many difficult fights. Secret 34. The hidden full damage negation. Become Ethereal Shout prevents all full damage if active when you land. But there's another method players rarely discover. Landing in water less than 2 feet deep also negates full damage completely. The game checks for water landing before calculating full damage, and even shallow puddles trigger this check. Creative players seek out tiny streams to jump into from incredible heights. Secret 35. The Whirlwind Sprint Exploitation. Whirlwind Sprint can be used to cross rivers, gaps, and obstacles you're not supposed to traverse. The momentum from the shout carries you through invisible barriers that would normally block movement. Speedrunners use this to break sequence in dozens of quests by reaching areas early or skipping entire dungeon sections by dashing over obstacles. Environmental storytelling secrets. Secret 36. The Doomed Expedition Site. North of Winterhold, scattered across a frozen hillside that overlooks the Sea of Ghosts, lies the remnants of an expedition that met a terrible fate, documenting knowledge we'll never fully understand. You'll find 3 separate campsites spread across nearly a kilometre of treacherous terrain, with the supplies and equipment growing more sparse and desperate at each successive location. This isn't just environmental decoration. It's a complete narrative of scholarly ambition, desperate survival, and final tragedy, told entirely through object placement and readable materials. The first camp, positioned at the base of the hillside where terrain transitions from tundra to mountain, shows an organized scholarly expedition at its peak. Proper Imperial military-grade tents stand arranged in neat rows, their canvas still relatively intact despite years of exposure. Research equipment lies scattered about. Measuring instruments, surveying tools, astronomical devices used for navigation and celestial observation. Books and journals sit protected under waterproof oilcloth, detailing the expedition's purpose. They were seeking an ancient Atmoran artifact called the Star Mirror, supposedly a Dwemer-made device that could predict dragon attack paths by reading celestial movements. The journals describe months of planning, significant funding from the College of Winterhold, and high hopes for discoveries that might revolutionize understanding of the Dragon War period. The expedition leader, a Breton scholar named Julien Amon, writes extensively about their preparations. They've brought enough supplies for 6 months. They've experienced mountaineers from the Greybeard's recommended guides. They carry warming enchantments, frost resistance potions, and magical emergency beacons that should summon help if needed. The first week's entries are almost cheerful. They're making excellent progress, finding Atmaran ruins that match descriptions from ancient texts, and experiencing only mild weather. Julien expresses confidence they'll locate the Star Mirror within weeks and return to Winterhold as celebrated scholars. Travel up the hillside following scattered equipment, a broken measuring tool here, a torn map there, and you'll find the second camp in a much less organized state. The tents here are makeshift shelters built from torn canvas and broken wooden poles, offering minimal protection from the elements that even casual observation reveals has turned hostile. The organized research equipment is gone, either abandoned during a hasty retreat or lost to the elements. What remains are survival essentials, depleted food supplies, empty potion bottles, and improvised cold weather gear cobbled together from torn tent material and leather straps. Julien's journal from this camp reveals the disaster's progression. The weather turned catastrophic suddenly. A blizzard descended with no warning, far more intense than seasonal norms. Their magical emergency beacons failed to activate, possibly disrupted by the storm's supernatural intensity. 3 expedition members died in the first night when a tent collapse suffocated them beneath heavy snow. Their guide, the experienced Nord mountaineer, attempted to lead them back to Winterhold, but fell through hidden ice into a crevasse. taking most of their rope and climbing equipment with him. Now the remaining scholars are lost, their instruments damaged, their supplies dwindling. They're attempting to continue toward their goal, hoping the ruins they seek will provide shelter. Julian writes that returning seems impossible. The storm has disoriented them completely, and without their guide, they don't know which direction leads to safety. The third and final camp sits at the hillside's exposed crest, offering virtually no protection from winds that scream across the barren landscape. No tents remain at all. The survivors apparently lacked materials or strength to construct even basic shelter. 11 frozen bodies huddle together in a depression that barely qualifies as a windbreak. They died attempting to share body heat, a survival technique that fails when temperatures drop below certain thresholds. The bodies are positioned in a rough circle, arms linked, turned inward, their final living moments spent trying desperately to preserve warmth that their bodies could no longer generate. Julienne's final journal entries, written in increasingly unsteady handwriting as hypothermia and exhaustion claimed her faculties, describe the expedition's last days. They found the ruins they were seeking, ancient Atmaran structures that predate even the Dragon War. Inside, they discovered the Star Mirror, and it was everything they'd hoped for and more. A functioning Dwemer device that actually displayed celestial patterns and dragon flight paths from millennia ago. In their excitement, they stayed too long documenting their findings, taking rubbings and measurements while the storm intensified outside. When they finally decided to leave, the weather had become impassable. They were trapped with their discovery, unable to return and share their findings with the world. The journal describes trying to wait out the storm inside the ruins, but the ancient structures provided insufficient protection, their walls cracked by centuries of ice expansion. Food ran out after 5 days. Hypothermia set in after 8. Julienne's final entry, dated almost 2 weeks after they found the Star Mirror, describes her inability to feel her fingers, her difficulty focusing her thoughts, and her bitter realization that they'll die here with their discovery. The Star Mirror will remain in these ruins, their documentation of its function freezing alongside their bodies. She writes that she hopes someone finds their journals someday, that their research doesn't die with them, that their families know they died on the verge of the discovery of a century. The cruelest detail of this tragedy is visible on clear days when weather permits full visibility from the final camp's position. You can see Winterhold's ruins in the distance, less than 5 kilometers away. On a calm day, the survivors could have walked there in 2 hours. But in the blizzard's whiteout conditions, they had no way to know salvation sat so close. They died practically within sight of home, and their groundbreaking discovery remains in those ruins somewhere up this frozen hillside, waiting for another expedition brave or foolish enough to seek it. This unmarked location represents dozens of hours of developer work, writing detailed journals, creating a logical progression of camps showing realistic deterioration, placing bodies in positions that communicate their final desperate actions. No quest points here, no rewards. Just a complete tragedy existing in the world for players who take time to read every journal, examine every camp, and piece together this story of scholarly ambition destroyed by nature's indifference. Secret 37. The murder scene at Stillborn Cave. Inside this unmarked cave, careful observers find evidence of a domestic tragedy. Two skeletons lie near each other, one holding a dagger, one holding a bottle of poison. Letters scattered nearby reveal a Nord couple who fled their families to be together, but discovered they were actually long-lost siblings separated in childhood. Unable to live with the shame and unwilling to return home, they chose death together in this remote cave. It's a Romeo and Juliet story twisted into something darker, told entirely through object placement and readable letters. Secret 38. The Failed Summoning Circle. Deep in the Gerald Mountains sits an unmarked stone circle with scorch marks and a skeleton in wizard robes at its center. The wizard's journal reveals he attempted to summon a Dremora lord alone, believing he had mastered the binding ritual. The blackened stones and the position of his skeleton show the summoning worked. He got his Dremora. He just couldn't control it. The demon apparently killed him and then, with no one to dismiss it, was stuck in our realm. If you search the surrounding area, you'll find a second skeleton half a mile away. The Dremora that killed the wizard, itself killed by an adventurer, or perhaps the Daedric prince recalling a failed summon. Secret 39. The Honeymooner's Bridge. There's a bridge on the road between Rorikstead and Markarth, where someone carved initials into the wooden railing. J, H, plus, MS Forever, Heartfire 15, 4E 198. Near the bridge, you can find a small picnic site with 2 bottles of wine and 2 cups. Follow the riverbank south from this spot, and you'll discover 2 bodies washed up against the rocks, stripped of valuables. The implication is heartbreaking. Newlyweds stopped on this bridge during their honeymoon, carved their initials, had a romantic picnic, and were murdered by bandits. The developers never explain this story. It exists purely as environmental narrative for players who pay attention. Secret 40. The Traitor's Final Message. In an unnamed shack high in the mountains between Falkreath and the Rift, you'll find a skeleton still seated at a desk, pen in hand, with an unfinished letter before them. The letter reads, "My beloved family, by the time you read this, you will know my shame. I delivered the Imperial Courier's route to the Stormcloaks. I thought I was serving Skyrim, but 27 soldiers died because of me. I cannot live with this knowledge. I only pray that..." The letter ends mid-sentence. The skeleton's position suggests they collapsed from self-inflicted poison while writing. No quest points here, no treasure. Just a complete tragedy told in a single room. Secret 41. The Lighthouse Keeper's Delusion. The lighthouse south of Solitude appears abandoned, but examining it closely reveals a strange story. Inside, the Keeper's journal describes seeing ships that aren't there, guiding phantom vessels to safety, and receiving thanks from ghostly captains. The entries become increasingly delusional, describing elaborate conversations with ships that never existed. The final entry, dated years after the lighthouse was officially closed, describes the Keeper dying alone, still believing they were performing essential work. A lantern on the upper level has been kept meticulously clean and fueled, ready to guide ships no one else can see. Secret 42. The Children's Tea Party. In a small clearing near Riverwood sits an arrangement that makes you pause. A circle of stones arranged as seats, small cups and plates made from leaves and bark, and several child-sized dolls positioned around this tea party. But there's something wrong. Frost covers everything, and the dolls are positioned far too precisely. Then you notice the small grave markers, partially hidden by bushes nearby. A mother's journal in a nearby hollow tree explains, her 3 children died of rock joint one winter. In her grief, she recreated their favorite game, arranging this tea party and visiting it daily until she herself disappeared into the wilderness, unable to face a world without them. Secret 43. The Dwemer Researchers Observatory. High on a remote mountain peak sits an unmarked camp with a telescope pointed at a distant Dwemer ruin. The researchers' notes reveal decades of observation, watching the ruins from afar, documenting mysterious lights and movements within. The final entries describe seeing something emerge from the ruins, something he couldn't identify or explain. Then the notes stop. His skeleton sits by the telescope, frozen in position, as if he died while looking through it. The telescope still points at the ruins. If you look through it yourself, you'll see nothing unusual. Whatever he saw is gone, or perhaps only visible to those who spend decades watching and waiting. Secret 44. The perfect crime scene. In a tavern in Morthal, one of the upstairs rooms contains evidence of a murder if you know what to look for. A chair positioned suspiciously near the window. Scuff marks on the floor suggesting a struggle. A single boot print in the dust that doesn't match any regular shoes. Is too large and has an unusual pattern. Bloodstains have been scrubbed away, but using the Detect Life spell reveals their faint outlines. No quest addresses this room. No NPC mentions it. But a perfect murder happened here, and someone cleaned the evidence thoroughly enough that guards never investigated. Only players who methodically examine every detail might realize they're standing in a crime scene that was never discovered. Secret 45. The Abandoned Wedding. Deep in the forest between Falkreath and the Rift stands a decorated outdoor altar with benches arranged in rows, flower arrangements, now dead, and an empty podium. This was clearly prepared for a wedding ceremony. But examine the area carefully. There are signs of a sudden panic departure. Benches are overturned, flowers scattered, tracks lead away in all directions. In the trees surrounding this clearing, you can find arrows stuck in the bark. The implication is that someone, bandits, monsters, or a rival, attacked this wedding, forcing everyone to flee. Now the prepared ceremony sits abandoned, a joyful occasion transformed into a scene of terror. The only witnesses are the forest and players who stumble upon this hidden tragedy. Secret 46. The Scholar's Obsession. An unmarked cave in Winterhold's icy waste contains a scholar's final research. Every surface, walls, floor, ceiling, is covered in crude drawings and written notes, mathematical equations, star charts, obsessive diagrams of something the scholar called the pattern. The writings become increasingly erratic, moving from scholarly language to frantic scrawls. I see it now. The pattern connects everything. The gods themselves left clues. The scholar's skeleton sits in the center of this chaos, surrounded by candles arranged in geometric patterns. This person discovered something, or believed they did, and it consumed them completely. Secret 47. The Time Capsule. Near an old tree outside Whiterun sits a small stone cairn that looks like a simple rock pile. But if you dismantle it carefully, you'll find a sealed metal box underneath. Inside, letters written by children from 50 years ago, addressed to their future selves. Dear future me, I hope you became a great warrior-like father. Dear future me, I hope you're still friends with Yorn and Sile. Dear future me, I hope Skyrim is at peace. These children buried this box as a pact to return and open it together when they grew up. They never returned. The tree has grown around the cairn. The children are either dead or have forgotten this promise. Only you know this time capsule exists. Secret 48. The merchant's last bargain. Along a remote road, you'll find an overturned cart with a merchant skeleton sprawled beside it. At first glance, it seems like a simple robbery gone wrong, but examining the scene reveals something stranger. The merchant is still clutching an unusual gem, and there are no bandits' bodies or signs of attackers. His journal reveals the truth. He was dying of disease and made a desperate bargain with a Daedric prince, trading his soul for this gem that promised to cure him. The gem appears to have cured his disease instantly. His diary confirms his symptoms vanished the moment he touched it. But Daedric bargains always have a price. The merchant died anyway, mere hours after his cure, and his soul was claimed as payment. The gem sits in his skeletal hand, beautiful and useless, a reminder that not all deals are worth making. Secret 49. The Lover's Leap. At the edge of a cliff in the Reach, someone carved words into a stone. Here we jump together into eternity, F and A. Follow the cliff edge, and you'll find two skeletons at the bottom, side by side, hands still clasped together. They're wearing matching silver rings. Nearby, a note reads, "Our families will not permit our marriage. They say a Breton cannot marry a Reachman. We will prove that love transcends such boundaries, if not in life, then in death." This is Skyrim's version of Romeo and Juliet, played out in a remote corner of the map with no quests, no voice acting, just a tragic story, told through placement and a single carved message. Secret 50. The Hunter's Final Hunt. In a frozen cave in the far north, you'll find a hunter's camp that tells a story of obsession. The walls are covered in sketches and notes about a massive white wolf, larger than any normal wolf, with unusual markings. The hunter tracked this creature for years, convinced it was some legendary beast. The final journal entry reads, "Tomorrow I will finally face the white wolf. After 6 years of tracking, I've found its den. Whatever happens, this hunt ends tonight." The hunter's skeleton lies at the back of the cave, torn apart by something with massive claws. But there's no wolf present, no body, no tracks, nothing. Either the white wolf survived and moved on, or perhaps it was never quite what the hunter believed it to be. Crafting and economy secrets. Secret 51. The Fortify Restoration Loop. Fortify Restoration potions don't just affect restoration magic. They strengthen all active effects, including other potions you drink and equipment you're wearing. This creates a feedback loop. Make a Fortify Restoration potion, drink it, then make a Fortify Alchemy potion that will be stronger because of the restoration effect. Drink that, make a stronger Fortify Restoration potion. Repeat. Each cycle multiplies your enchanting and alchemy bonuses until you can create god-tier equipment. The game never explains this interaction, and it breaks the entire crafting system for players who discover it. Secret 52. The Muffle Exploit. Creating and repeatedly selling muffle enchanted boots or invisibility potions levels your speech faster than any other method. These items have high value relative to their ingredient cost, meaning each sale gives massive experience. Players who understand this can max speech in under an hour by crafting and selling these specific items to reset merchants repeatedly. Secret 53. The ingredient respawn timing. Alchemy ingredients respawn based on in-game days, not real time, and each ingredient type has different respawn rates. Valuable ingredients like jasbay grapes and nernroot respawn after 10 days. Common ingredients like mountain flowers respawn after 3 days. Smart alchemists mark the in-game date when they harvest rare ingredients and return exactly when they'll respawn, creating efficient farming routes that generate massive wealth. Secret 54. The smithing trap leveling. Smithing by crafting increases your character level without increasing combat effectiveness proportionally, which makes enemies scale faster than your ability to fight them. Many players have ruined their game balance by power leveling smithing through iron dagger spam, ending up at high character levels with good equipment but insufficient combat skills. The game never warns you that non-combat skill leveling has this consequence. Secret 55. The secret enchanting stat. The enchanting skill's most powerful effect isn't stronger enchantments. It's the ability to have multiple enchantments on one item starting at enchanting 100. With the extra effect perk, you can combine 2 enchantments that normally wouldn't go together, creating combinations like Fortify Heavy Armor plus Fortify Health on the same piece, or Fortify One-Handed plus Fortify Stamina on weapons. This effectively doubles your enchantment coverage, but the perk description undersells how game-changing this becomes. Secret 56. The Transmute Mineral Ore Gold Mine. The Transmute spell, found in Halted Stream Camp, turns iron ore into silver, then silver into gold. Combined with the Transmute Warrior Stone Blessing, you can turn cheap iron ore into expensive gold ore, craft gold rings, enchant them with Fortify Sneak or Muffle, and sell them for enormous profits while leveling smithing, enchanting, and speech simultaneously. This single spell creates a self-sustaining wealth engine that breaks the economy if you understand the interaction. Secret 57. The Vegetable Soup Exploit. Vegetable soup is arguably the best food in Skyrim. It costs almost nothing to make. Tomato, cabbage, potato, leek. Weighs very little and provides continuous regeneration of both health and stamina for 12 minutes. Unlike potions, soup doesn't trigger a cooldown, so you can drink multiple servings and stack the effects. Stamina regeneration makes power attacks and sprinting essentially free, making this simple soup more valuable than legendary potions for warriors. Secret 58. The Bound Weapon Experience. Using bound weapons levels their associated weapon skill faster than physical weapons, because bound weapons appear to have slightly higher base experience values. Conjuration mages discover that summoning a bound sword levels one-handed faster than using a regular sword, creating an efficient way to train multiple skills simultaneously. Conjuration from summoning the weapon, one-handed from using it. Secret 59. The crafting skill reset. If you make a skill legendary, reset it to 15 after reaching 100. You can re-level it using the same exploits that worked the first time, gaining character levels efficiently. Some players make smithing legendary repeatedly, using iron dagger crafting to gain multiple character levels with minimal resource investment. This wasn't intended as a leveling strategy, but it works perfectly for players who discover it. Secret 60. The Hidden Merchant Gold Respawning. Merchant Gold doesn't respawn on a timer. It respawns after you complete certain quest stages or level up. Save scumming by waiting doesn't restore merchant gold quickly, but completing any small quest, even a minor objective, can trigger merchant inventory resets. Players who understand this focus on completing miscellaneous quests between selling sessions rather than simply waiting. Hidden quest mechanics. Secret 61, the alternative diplomatic solution. In Season Unending, the Peace Council quest, most players make standard compromises, but if you've completed specific Civil War quests first, you unlock alternative negotiation options that dramatically change the peace terms. Having the Thalmor arrested for war crimes is possible if you've gathered specific intelligence documents throughout the game. Most players never see these options because they require completing unrelated quests before starting the Peace Council. Secret 62, the Secret Vampire Cure Reversal. After curing vampirism through Thalion's ritual, you can become a vampire again simply by contracting sanguinar vampiris once more. But there's a hidden mechanic. Each time you cure and recontract vampirism, Thalion's dialogue changes. He becomes increasingly suspicious, eventually accusing you of treating his ritual frivolously. After curing yourself 5 times, he refuses to help again, forcing you to either stay cured or remain a vampire permanently. Secret 63, the imperceptible quest timer. Several quests have hidden time limits that aren't mentioned anywhere. Delayed Burial with Cicero fails if you don't complete it within 48 in-game hours of starting it. In My Time of Need fails permanently if you don't respond within 7 days. These timers run silently in the background, and many players have quests fail without understanding why, because the game never warns you about time pressure. Secret 64, the secret Daedric artifact counting. To unlock the Oblivion Walker achievement, you need 15 Daedric artifacts. But several Daedric quests offer choices that award different artifacts, and some artifacts don't count toward the achievement at all. The Skeleton Key, despite being a Daedric artifact, doesn't count because you're required to return it. Most players don't realize they need to carefully track which artifacts they collect and which quests they've completed with specific outcomes to ensure they reach 15. Secret 65, the hidden companion approval system. Certain companions have hidden approval ratings that change based on your actions in their presence. Jazago approves of spell use and sneaky behavior. Mjol approves of honorable combat and disapproves of crime. This approval affects more than dialogue. It influences their combat effectiveness, their willingness to carry out orders, and their likelihood of leaving your service. The game never shows these ratings, but companions who like you fight harder on your behalf. Secret 66, the alternative quest completion path. Many quests have multiple valid completion methods the game never mentions. The Wolf Queen Awakened can be completed by simply destroying Potema's remains rather than fighting through her entire summoned army. The Man Who Cried Wolf can be completed by pickpocketing Folk's key instead of asking for it. Dozens of quests have these alternative solutions, but the quest log only describes the expected path, making players believe there's only one way to proceed. Secret 67, the secret quest branching in main story. During diplomatic immunity, players who meticulously search the Thalmor embassy find documents that unlock dialogue options in later quests. These documents reveal information about Ulfric Stormcloak's interrogation and his potential status as an unwitting Thalmor asset. This information can be used in Season Unending to pressure Ulfric into territorial concessions, creating dramatically different peace terms. Most players skip these optional documents and never see this branching path. Secret 68, the Hidden Radiant Quest. Exhaustion. Radiant quests, randomly generated repeatable quests, aren't truly infinite. Each quest giver has a hidden pool of possible locations and objectives. Once you've completed all variations from a specific quest giver, they start repeating locations in a fixed rotation. Players who grind Radiant quests eventually notice they're sent to the same dungeons repeatedly. Not randomization, but exhausted possibility pools. Secret 69. The Secret Civil War Stalemate option. If you advance both Civil War quest lines to specific points before completing Season Unending, you can create a permanent stalemate where neither side can achieve victory. This locks the Civil War in an interesting limbo state where both Imperials and Stormcloaks maintain their territories indefinitely. It's technically a broken questline state, but it creates a unique political situation where neither faction wins. Secret 70. The Hidden College questline shortcut. Most players complete the College of Winterhold questline by following every step as presented. But if you already have a Staff of Magnus when you reach that quest stage, the game skips several objectives and fast-tracks you to the end of the storyline. Similarly, having Dragon Elder Scroll before starting Elder Knowledge drastically shortens that quest. The game never hints these shortcuts exist. Dragon Behavior and Shout Secrets, Secret 71. The Dragon Landing Manipulation. Dragons won't land if there are obstacles between you and them. Understanding this, you can manipulate dragon behavior by positioning yourself in cluttered areas when you want them to land so you can use melee, or open areas when you want them to stay airborne so you can practice archery. Dragons calculate landing zones based on terrain accessibility, and exploiting this knowledge gives you tactical control over dragon encounters. Secret 72. The Secret Shout interactions. Some shouts interact in unexpected ways when used together. Slow Time Plus. Elemental Fury creates absurdly fast attack speeds. Dragon Rend Plus. Cyclone causes dragons to crash violently rather than land gracefully, dealing full damage. These combinations aren't mentioned anywhere, but they create powerful synergies for players who experiment with sequential shout usage. Secret 73. The Hidden Dragon Soul Debt. If you kill dragons before learning the associated shouts, the dragon souls accumulate in a hidden bank and automatically unlock the next shout you discover. Some players kill dozens of dragons before completing the main quest, then unlock shouts instantly when they finally reach word walls. The game never explains this mechanic. Souls silently queue up, waiting for valid words to unlock. Secret 74. The dragon respawn control dragons respawn at their burial mounds based on in-game time, but the respawn timer can be reset by re-entering the region. Some players farm specific dragons for souls by fast-traveling away, waiting 10 days, then returning. The game's regional cell reloading triggers the respawn check, allowing efficient dragon soul farming if you understand the system. Secret 75. The Voice of the Sky exploit. The Voice of the Sky blessing from the Greybeard's quest makes animals non-hostile for 24 hours. But it works on some creatures the game technically classifies as animals, despite being clearly monsters, including ice wraiths, spriggans, and mammoths. This blessing trivializes certain difficult encounters if you know which animals it affects. Secret 76. The Hidden Shout. Cooldown reduction. The Blessing of Talos reduces shout cooldown by 20%, but this stacks multiplicatively with the Amulet of Talos, not additively. With both active, you don't get 40% reduction, you get approximately 36%, because each effect applies to the already reduced cooldown. Players who understand this math recognize that Talos worship provides more value than simple addition would suggest. Secret 77. The secret dragon AI patterns. Dragons follow predictable combat patterns based on their element type. Frost dragons stay airborne longer. Fire dragons land more aggressively. Elder dragons use more tactical positioning. Once you recognize these patterns, you can predict dragon behavior and prepare appropriate counters, transforming random dragon encounters into manageable tactical puzzles. Secret 78. The Dragon Wren's true power. Dragon Wren doesn't just force dragons to land. It temporarily prevents them from using any dragon shouts, including unrelenting force and fire breath. While grounded and under Dragon Wren's effect, dragons become substantially less dangerous, relegated to physical attacks only. This makes Dragon Wren more valuable for its shout-cancelling effect than its grounding effect. Secret 79. The Hidden Parther-Nax dialogue. Parther-Nax has unique dialogue that triggers if you return to speak with him after defeating Alduin. He discusses philosophy, the nature of power, and the future of dragonkind. Most players never hear this dialogue because they either never return to the throat of the world, or they kill Parther-Nax before completing the main quest. His post-victory dialogue provides significant lore about dragon society and Alduin's true role. Secret 80. The Blessing of the Thu'um. Completing the main storyline and meditating with Parther-Nax unlocks special meditation bonuses that enhance specific shouts. Each meditation focuses on one shout, providing a permanent 25% bonus to its effectiveness. Most players complete one meditation, usually Fus Ro Da, and never realize they can return repeatedly to enhance different shouts. There are 3 possible meditations, each targeting different words of power. Faction and Guild Mechanics. Secret 81. The Thieves Guild. Shadow Mark. Exploitation shadow marks aren't just lore. They're functional markers that identify useful locations. The loot shadow mark appears on homes with valuable items, but these marks also indicate these homes have easier to pick locks or patrol patterns with longer gaps. Understanding shadow mark meanings lets you plan heists with insider information you can see marked directly on buildings. Secret 82. The Hidden Brotherhood bonus objectives. Dark Brotherhood contracts have hidden bonus objectives that award extra gold if completed. Killing targets with specific methods, without witnesses, using specific weapons at specific times, triggers bonus payments. The game never explains these objectives exist. You only discover them by accident or by reading every contract extremely carefully for subtle hints. Secret 83. The Secret Companion Faction status. If you complete both the Companion's questline and the College of Winterhold questline, NPCs recognize you as both Harbinger and Archmage simultaneously, offering unique dialogue that only triggers when you hold multiple leadership positions. The game tracks all your faction statuses and has special dialogue for players who rise to leadership in multiple organizations. Secret 84. The Hidden Winterhold College. Experiments around the College of Winterhold are several ongoing magical experiments you can observe and interact with. The ice spike outside the Hall of Elements grows larger over time. The summoning practice chamber sometimes spawns unexpected creatures. These aren't bugs. They're environmental details showing the college as an active research institution. But most players rush through without noticing these background magical experiments. Secret 85. The Secret Thieves Guild restoration stages. As you complete Thieves Guild quests and return the guild to prominence, The ragged flagon gradually improves. The lighting gets better, furniture is repaired, new NPCs arrive, and the merchants stock better items. This transformation happens in stages tied to specific quest completions, visually showing the guild's restoration. The changes are subtle enough that many players don't notice the cumulative transformation unless they pay close attention. Secret 86. The Hidden Companion Circle, Politics. The Companion Circle has internal political tensions most players never fully grasp. Skjor and Ayla represent the traditionalist werewolf faction. Vilkas and Kodlak represent those seeking to cure the beast blood. Player choices during the questline subtly influence which faction gains more influence, though the game's linear structure means these tensions never fully explode into open conflict. Secret 87. The Dark Brotherhood, Survivor Secret. If you destroy the Dark Brotherhood instead of joining them, Cicero survives and can be found randomly as a hostile encounter wandering Skyrim. He attacks you on sight, babbling about revenge for the family you destroyed. This encounter is rare because most players either join the Brotherhood or never trigger the destruction questline, so few players ever meet Mad Cicero as a wandering enemy. Secret 88. The Bard's College Hidden Music Mechanics. Completing the Bard's College quests doesn't just give you reputation, it permanently adds new songs to the tavern rotation throughout Skyrim. Travel to any inn after completing the college, and you'll hear new performances that weren't there before. The game implemented dynamic content that most players don't notice because they don't frequent taverns regularly enough to recognize the expanded playlist. Secret 89. The Hidden Faction Rivalry System. The game tracks your reputation with competing factions and sometimes creates conflicts. If you're a high-ranking companion and join the Thieves Guild, certain NPCs express disappointment in your descent into criminality. If you lead both the Mages College and the Thieves Guild, some characters comment on the unusual combination. These reactions are rare because they require specific faction status combinations, but they demonstrate the game's awareness of your activities across different organizations. Secret 90. The secret faction equipment upgrades. As you advance in faction ranks, the equipment your fellow faction members wear gradually improves. Companions progress from iron to steel to elven equipment as the questline advances. Thieves Guild members start wearing better armor. These aren't just cosmetic changes. It reflects the faction's growing resources and prosperity under your leadership, though the transformation happens gradually enough that many players don't consciously notice it. Lore and item secrets. Secret 91. The interconnected item sets. Several seemingly unrelated items are actually parts of larger narrative sets. Ancient Nord weapons found in Draga tombs often belong to specific heroes mentioned in books scattered around Skyrim. Reading a history of Ysgramor, then finding Ysgramor's toothpick in a random chest, creates a connection most players miss. The items aren't mechanically linked, but they're narratively related if you pay attention to both the books and the items you're collecting. Secret 92. The Hidden Book Series. Some book series have volumes scattered across Skyrim that tell connected stories, but the final volume is hidden in an obscure location, providing a shocking conclusion few readers discover. The real Baron Zaya has a final volume that reveals surprising information about the Nerevarine that contradicts official histories. Players who collect all volumes of certain series find these narrative payoffs. Secret 93. secret item enchantment. Origins. Many unique enchanted items have lore, explanations for their enchantments, hidden in books or NPC dialogue. The ebony blade becomes more powerful as it kills friends because it was cursed by Mephala to feed on betrayal. The Wabbajack's random effects reflect Sheogorath's chaotic nature. These aren't just gameplay mechanics, they're rooted in Daedric lore that enriches the items if you know their stories. Secret 94. The hidden item upgrade paths. Certain quest items can be improved beyond their standard versions if you complete specific hidden requirements. Mehrunes' razor can be strengthened by collecting fragments of Mehrunes' mythology scattered across Skyrim. Mask of Clavicus Vial has dialogue variations depending on whether you return it or keep it, creating different magical effects. These upgrade paths exist, but are never explicitly documented. Secret 95. The secret armor set completions. Complete armor sets provide hidden bonuses beyond their individual piece stats. Wearing a full set of Daedric armor provides a small intimidation bonus that makes NPCs more likely to flee from you or yield in dialogue. A complete set of Thieves' Guild armor has subtle bonuses to pickpocketing that aren't listed in the item descriptions. The game rewards completion, but never highlights these set bonuses. Secret 96. The hidden amulet powers amulets dedicated to different divines provide subtle passive effects beyond their listed enchantments. Amulet of Mara slightly increases the success rate of marriage proposals. Amulet of Akatosh subtly increases your shout recovery speed. These effects are so minor they're barely noticeable, but they're present in the game code as thematic additions that complement each deity's domain. Secret 97. The secret potion recipe discovery. Certain ingredient combinations create potions with unique names and effects that aren't simply the sum of their parts. Combining specific rare ingredients creates elixirs, rather than standard potions, with significantly longer duration or more powerful effects. These recipes aren't documented anywhere. Players must discover them through experimentation or stumble upon them by accident. Secret 98. The hidden shield blocking mechanics. Different shield types block different percentages of damage, but the game also tracks blocked attack types for hidden bonuses. A shield that has blocked 100 magical attacks gains a hidden resistance to magic that isn't shown in stats. Shields learn what types of damage they've blocked and become slightly more effective against those damage types over time. Secret 99. The secret weapon history tracking. Every unique weapon in Skyrim has a hidden counter tracking how many enemies it has killed. While this information isn't displayed to the player, it affects the weapon's resale value and certain NPCs' reactions when you show them the weapon. A legendary sword that has killed hundreds becomes more valuable and respected than an identical sword that's never been used in combat. Secret 100. The hidden armor. Weathering system armor gradually shows wear based on how much damage you've taken while wearing it. This isn't durability. Your armor doesn't break, but the textures subtly become more scratched, dented, and worn-looking the more you use them in combat. The effect is so gradual most players never notice, but heavily used armor looks distinctly more battle-worn than freshly acquired armor. Advanced World Secret 1. The Hidden Cell Persistence. The game only keeps a limited number of world cells active at any time. When you leave an area, It unloads after several in-game days, resetting any changes you made unless you placed items in specific containers. This means bodies you left in dungeons eventually despawn, arrows stuck in walls disappear, and environmental damage resets. Understanding cell persistence helps players understand why some changes stick around while others vanish. Secret 102. The secret NPC respawn mechanics. Named NPCs never respawn once killed, but generic NPCs, bandits, forsworn, etc., do respawn after dungeon cells reset. This creates situations where you can clear a dungeon, have it repopulate with different enemies, and clear it again. The game uses this system to ensure dungeons remain explorable even after you've completed their associated quests. Secret 1-3. The hidden quest object. Permanence quest items can't be dropped from your inventory, but they persist even after their associated quest completes. Some players unknowingly carry dozens of completed quest items that are stuck in their inventory forever, taking up weight and cluttering their inventory. The game has no built-in way to remove these unless you use console commands or complete the quest in a specific way. Secret 104. The secret crime bounty decay. Crime bounties don't just stay on your record forever. They very slowly decay over time if you don't commit additional crimes in that hold. After many in-game weeks without returning to a hold where you have a bounty, the bounty amount gradually decreases. This decay is so slow most players never notice, but patient criminals can eventually have their bounties reduced simply through time. Secret 105. The hidden fast travel consequences. Fast traveling too frequently can cause you to miss random world events that only trigger when you travel overland. Dragon attacks, courier deliveries, and certain NPC encounters only spawn during physical travel between locations. Players who always fast travel see substantially less content than those who regularly walk between cities. Secret 106. The secret save file bloating. Every persistent change you make to the world increases your save file size. Dropped items, killed enemies, moved objects. All of these accumulate in your save file. Players who extensively modify the game world can end up with save files that take minutes to load because the game must reconstruct thousands of individual changes every time you load. The only fix is starting a new character or using cleaning mods to remove unnecessary persistent data. Secret 107. The hidden difficulty scaling breakpoints. Difficulty settings don't just increase enemy health and damage, they change how aggressive AI behaves. On legendary difficulty, enemies use power attacks more frequently, block more often, and coordinate their attacks better. The AI actually becomes smarter, not just statistically stronger. This means difficulty changes affect gameplay in ways beyond simple number modifications. Secret 108. The secret Cloud District mystery. Nazim's famous line about getting to the Cloud District creates a mystery, because there's no place in Whiterun officially called the Cloud District. The Jarl's Palace is called Dragon's Reach. The market area is the Plains District, and the residential area is the Wind District. Cloud District appears to be Nazim's pretentious renaming of the upper area to emphasize his elevated status. The developers included this line to characterize Nazim as pompous, not because a Cloud District actually exists. Secret 109. The Hidden Moon Phase. Effects. Skyrim's moons go through realistic lunar phases, and these phases subtly affect certain gameplay elements. Werewolves transform faster during full moons. Certain alchemy ingredients are more potent when harvested under specific moon phases. These effects are so minor, they're almost imperceptible, but they exist as atmospheric details that reward players who pay attention to the night sky. Secret 110. The secret sound effect variations. The game has dozens of variations for common sound effects that cycle based on environmental conditions. Footstep sounds on stone have 8 different variations. Sword impact sounds have 12 variations. Arrow flight has wind speed dependent whistle sounds. These subtle variations prevent audio from becoming repetitive, but most players never consciously notice because the variations blend so seamlessly. Final collection of secrets. Secret 111. The hidden kill move requirements. Cinematic kill moves don't trigger randomly. They have specific conditions. Your target must be below 20% health. You must have significantly more health than them. And the attack must be a power attack. Understanding these conditions lets you deliberately trigger kill moves by timing power attacks against low health enemies, creating dramatic finishing moves on command. Secret 112. The secret companion commands. You can command companions to do much more than the basic menu suggests. Telling them to wait here in specific locations essentially turns them into guards for your property. Commanding them to attack specific targets makes them prioritize those targets over others. Trading items to them and taking them back quickly raises their carrying capacity through an exploit. The companion system has hidden depth beyond follow and trade. Secret 113. The hidden sneak bonus mechanics. Sneak attack bonuses multiply with other damage bonuses rather than adding linearly. A 15x sneak attack with a 2x elemental enchantment results in 30x damage, not 17x. Understanding multiplicative damage stacking allows assassin builds to achieve absurd damage numbers that seem impossibly high until you understand how the systems interact. Secret 114. The secret horse ownership mechanics. The game tracks which horse you own, even if you never formally purchase one. Stealing a horse and riding it long enough makes the game consider you its owner, permanently marking it as yours. This lets you obtain free horses through theft if you're willing to accumulate bounty. The ownership system wasn't designed to work this way, but it does. Secret 115. The hidden difficulty recommendation system. The game analyzes your combat performance and subtly suggests difficulty adjustments. If you die repeatedly, loading screen tips begin mentioning that difficulty can be changed at any time. If you never take damage, tips about increasing difficulty appear more frequently. This adaptive suggestion system tries to guide players toward appropriate challenge without forcing difficulty changes. Secret 116. The secret weather prediction. Certain NPC dialogue predicts upcoming weather changes. Guards mentioning smells like rain means precipitation will start within the next in-game hour. NPCs commenting on clear skies usually precedes extended good weather. The developers programmed this dialogue to trigger based on upcoming weather system changes, creating realistic feeling weather predictions from locals who know the area. Secret 117. The hidden load. Screen lore load screen text isn't random, it's contextual. The game shows load screen tips and lore related to where you're traveling to, or what quest you're currently pursuing. Fast traveling to a Dwemer ruin shows Dwemer-related lore. Loading during a Daedric quest shows Daedric lore. This system creates themed information delivery that feels organic rather than random. Secret 118. The secret jump attack bonus attacking while airborne, jumping then attacking before landing. Adds a small damage bonus, that stacks with power attack bonuses. This jump attack mechanic is never explained, but it creates a skill ceiling for advanced players who incorporate jumps into their combat rotation for incremental damage improvements. Secret Wonder 19. The hidden disease resistance scaling disease resistance from multiple sources stacks additively until it reaches 100%, at which point you're completely immune. Argonians start with 50% resistance. Adding a single 50% resistance enchantment makes them totally immune to all diseases, including vampirism. This makes certain races far more valuable for specific builds if you understand the stacking mechanics. Secret 120. The secret sprint attack technique. Releasing sprint immediately before attacking gives your attack extra momentum for increased damage and stagger chance. This is subtle enough that most players never notice it works, but skilled melee fighters incorporate sprint cancelling into their attack patterns for consistent damage boosts. Secret 121. The hidden object physics exploitation. Items with physics can be manipulated to reach normally inaccessible areas. Dropping buckets or plates and using them as stepping stones lets you climb walls or reach high ledges. This physics exploitation allows sequence breaking in numerous quests, letting players reach objectives without completing intended prerequisites. Secret 122. The Secret Torch Combat Bonus. Wielding a torch in your offhand while using a one-handed weapon provides light and a hidden small bash damage bonus from burning enemies. Torches are usually considered inferior to shields or spells, but against ice-based enemies like ice wraiths and frost trolls, the fire damage from torch bashes is surprisingly effective. Secret 123. The hidden water movement. Movement speed underwater is affected by armor weight, but it's also affected by which direction you're moving. Swimming upward is faster than swimming horizontally, which is faster than swimming downward. This creates optimal underwater routes, where you angle upward even when traveling horizontally to maximize speed. Secret 124. The Secret Soul Gem. Efficiency. Filling soul gems isn't automatic. The game tries to use the smallest sufficient gem first. If you have a petty and a grand soul gem in inventory and kill a petty soul creature, the petty gem fills first. This system prevents waste, but players can exploit it by dropping large gems before killing small enemies, forcing souls into appropriately sized gems and preserving valuable grand gems for worthy souls. Secret 125. The hidden arrow recovery rate. Arrows embedded in enemies can be recovered after combat, but the recovery rate depends on arrow type and where they hit. Steel arrows have 33% recovery rate. Ebony arrows have 50% recovery rate. Headshots have higher recovery rates than body shots. Understanding these mechanics helps archer players maintain arrow stocks more efficiently. Secret 126. The Secret Shout Discovery bonus. Finding word walls and not absorbing the word immediately provides a hidden navigation bonus. The word wall's location remains marked on your compass, letting you use it as a landmark. Some players deliberately leave word walls unabsorbed to maintain permanent navigation markers in remote areas, using them as fast travel reference points. Secret 127. The Hidden Follower Inheritance System. If your follower dies while carrying your items, those items transfer to their corpse's inventory, which will eventually respawn in the Hall of the Dead. This means items given to dead followers aren't permanently lost. They can be recovered from their burial urn after several days. The game treats follower possessions as temporary loans rather than permanent transfers. Secret 1 to 28. The secret lockpick positioning. Lockpicking success isn't purely about finding the right angle. It's also about applying consistent pressure. The game tracks how steadily you maintain pressure while turning the lockpick. Jerky, inconsistent turning breaks, picks faster than smooth, steady pressure even at the same angle. This creates a skill element beyond simply finding the correct position. Secret 129. The hidden spell absorption mechanic. Spell absorption doesn't just absorb enemy spells. It absorbs beneficial spells cast on you by allies, including healing. Players with 100% spell absorption cannot be healed by followers or friendly NPCs, creating situations where your defensive enchantment actively hurts you during tough fights when allies try to help. Secret 130. The secret full damage calculation. Full damage is calculated not just by distance fallen, but by speed at impact. Using whirlwind sprint while falling increases your fall speed, causing more damage than simply dropping the same distance. Conversely, casting projectile spells downward while falling slightly reduces fall speed through a physics quirk, potentially saving you from lethal falls. Secret 131. The hidden sun. Damage to undead sunlight actually damages vampires and certain undead beyond the just mentioned vulnerabilities. Standing in direct sunlight while a vampire gradually drains their health over time. This is separate from their stat penalties. They're literally being burned by daylight. Vampire players who understand this seek shade during daytime rather than simply tolerating the stat penalties. Secret 132. The secret enemy detection layers. Enemies don't have uniform detection ranges. They have layered detection zones. The innermost zone triggers instant detection regardless of sneak skill. The middle zone uses normal detection calculations. The outer zone only detects you if you sprint or draw weapons. Understanding these invisible zones lets stealth players navigate the exact edges of detection ranges for maximum safety. Secret 133. The hidden racial detection bonuses. Each race has subtle bonuses to detecting specific enemy types. Nords detect undead slightly earlier. Dunmer detect flame Atronachs more easily. These bonuses are so minor they're virtually imperceptible in gameplay, but they exist as thematic racial abilities that complement each race's cultural background and typical enemies. Secret 134. The secret container reloading merchant chests, and certain containers don't fully reload when their cell resets. They partially preserve inventory. This means if you steal from a merchant and wait for the cell to reset, some stolen items might reappear in their inventory alongside new items. The game tries to simulate realistic inventory management, creating this interesting duplication quirk. Secret 135. The hidden music trigger system. Combat music doesn't trigger from enemy spawns. It triggers from enemies detecting you or taking damage. This means you can sometimes tell enemies are nearby before you see them, because combat music starts playing, giving alert players an audio warning of hidden threats. Secret 136. The secret armor rating caps. Armor rating provides diminishing returns after certain thresholds, eventually capping at 80% damage reduction, regardless of how high your armor value goes. This cap means there's a point where stacking more armor provides zero benefit, and smart players redirect those enchantment slots and stat points toward other defensive options once they've reached the cap. Secret 137. The hidden magic resistance stacking. Magic resistance from different sources stacks additively until 85%, after which additional resistance provides drastically reduced benefits. A player with 85% magic resistance from multiple sources gains almost nothing from additional magic resistance enchantments, making further investment inefficient. Understanding this cap prevents players from over-investing in magic resistance. Secret 138. The secret projectile trajectory prediction. Ranged enemies use projectile trajectory prediction, aiming where you'll be rather than where you are. Moving erratically or constantly changing direction makes you harder to hit because enemies' predictive aiming becomes inaccurate. This AI system creates skill-based archery duels where movement patterns matter as much as aim. Secret 139. The hidden summon duration, scaling. Summoned creature duration scales not just with your conjuration skill, but also with relevant perks and your character level. A level 50 character with 100 conjuration has much longer summon durations than a level 20 character with 100 conjuration. The game ties summon power to both skill investment and overall character progression. Secret 140. The secret power level scaling enemy difficulty scales with your character level, but it also considers your equipped gear's value. Wearing expensive equipment triggers higher level enemy spawns because the game assumes expensive gear means you can handle harder challenges. This creates situations where upgrading equipment actually makes the world more dangerous if your combat skills haven't improved proportionally. Secret 141. The hidden skeleton key benefits. While holding the skeleton key before returning it in the Thieves Guild quest, you have unlimited lockpicking attempts with an unbreakable lockpick. But there's another benefit. You gain slightly increased chances of finding rare items in locked containers. The skeleton key subtly increases loot quality from chests you unlock with it, rewarding players who delay returning it. Secret 142. The secret blessing stacking. Divine blessings don't overwrite each other, they stack. You can visit multiple shrines and accumulate blessings from different divines simultaneously, each providing their specific benefit. Most players assume activating a new shrine replaces the previous blessing, so they never discover that collecting multiple blessings is possible and extremely powerful. Secret 143. The hidden poison stacking. Applying poison to a weapon doesn't consume the poison on the first hit. It applies to the next several attacks, depending on the poison's value. Expensive poisons last for multiple hits, meaning you can effectively stack poison applications by coating your weapon with multiple valuable poisons before combat begins. Secret 144. The secret ingredient growing. Certain harvestable plants gradually grow and spread throughout the game. If you harvest ingredients from a plant without taking the entire plant, it continues growing and eventually produces more ingredients. Completely destroying plants prevents respawning, so sustainable harvesting is mechanically rewarded if you understand this growth system. Secret 145. The hidden enemy morale system. Enemies can become demoralized and flee if they witness too many of their allies dying. The game tracks each enemy's observed casualties and calculates a hidden morale score. When morale breaks, enemies stop fighting and run away. Aggressive players who quickly eliminate multiple enemies can cause the survivors to panic and retreat, ending fights without killing everyone. Secret 146. The secret corpse. Looting corpses don't despawn immediately. They persist for several in-game days before finally unloading. This means you can return to battlefields from days ago and still loot bodies you didn't search the first time. The game maintains corpse persistence much longer than most players realize, making it worthwhile to revisit large battle sites. Secret 147. The hidden wealth calculation merchant gold regeneration is calculated based on in-game days passed since your last transaction, but it's also affected by which items you sold them. Merchants who bought valuable items from you regenerate gold faster because the game assumes they resold those items for profit. This creates a realistic economic simulation where successful merchants recover their wealth more quickly. Secret 148. The secret elemental weakness. Chaining, hitting enemies with opposing elements, frost then fire or shock then frost, causes additional damage beyond the elemental effect itself. The game applies a hidden temperature shock bonus when enemies rapidly switch between extreme temperatures. Destruction mages who alternate fire and frost spells deal significantly more damage than those who spam a single element. Secret 149. The hidden dual-wielding math. Dual-wielding weapons doesn't simply alternate attacks between left and right hands. The damage calculation uses a weighted average favoring your stronger weapon. If your right-hand weapon is significantly more powerful than your left, dual-wielding deals more damage than using either weapon alone, because the game applies bonuses to both hands based on your primary hand's superior weapon. Secret 150. The secret character persistence. Named NPCs you never interact with still live their lives according to their schedules. Somewhere in Skyrim right now, an NPC you've never met is sleeping, or working, or eating a meal, following their routine, whether you observe them or not. The game simulates these lives continuously across the entire province, creating a truly living world that exists independently of your observation. Every time you pass through a town, NPCs have continued their lives since your last visit, forming relationships, conducting business, and existing as more than just scenery waiting for your arrival. Tonight, we've explored 150 hidden secrets in Skyrim. From environmental storytelling that creates entire narratives through careful object placement, to complex mechanical systems operating silently in the background. We've discovered how dragons calculate landing zones, how NPCs track their sleep debt, and how the weather system predicts precipitation based on realistic meteorological patterns. We've learned about hidden social physics that govern crowd behavior, the secret mathematical caps on armor and magic resistance, and the way enemies can become demoralized by witnessing their allies fall in battle. These secrets reveal a game that respects player agency and rewards careful observation. Skyrim doesn't hold your hand or explain every system. Instead, it builds worlds within worlds, visible systems supported by invisible mechanics, creating an illusion of life that feels genuine because it's built on functional, interconnected systems rather than scripted responses. Every mountain path tells a story. Every NPC has hidden depths. Every combat encounter operates on mechanical principles you can learn to exploit. The game offers near infinite complexity for those willing to look beyond the surface. The beauty of Skyrim lies not in any single element, but in how everything connects. How the weather system affects agriculture, which affects economics, which affects merchant dialogue. How your relationships with NPCs change their behavior, which changes your experience, which changes how you approach the game. These secrets we've explored tonight represent just a fraction of Skyrim's depth. The game continues to surprise players because it was built by developers who understood that the best secrets are the ones players discover themselves through curiosity and observation. Thank you for journeying through these hidden corners of Skyrim with me tonight. May your travels through Tamriel be filled with discovery, and may you always find new wonders waiting in familiar places. If you enjoyed this exploration, consider subscribing so you never miss another deep dive into gaming's most intricate worlds. Sweet dreams, cozy nights, and may your adventures be legendary.